Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation here in Spain, day 379 of the current situation. And the central government has now decided that it's a good time to toughen entry requirements into the country, especially for people coming into Spain via land borders, but more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a donation. You can see your names here. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your continuing support. Now let's get into the news, and as I said, the central government has decided to make it a little bit more difficult for people to enter the country via land borders. And as we can see here from this headline, Spain will also require a negative PCR test for travellers from risk areas in France entering by land. Until now, the test was compulsory only for those entering by air or sea. The measure comes amid controversy over illegal parties and so-called binge tourism, with the focus on the French and cities such as Madrid and the autonomous communities closed at Easter due to an increase in the incidence of cases. So the government now deciding to check people entering the country through land borders from France, given that the health situation in France is a lot worse than it is in Spain at the moment, probably a fairly good idea. A lot of French people, particularly young French people, see Spain as an oasis, or see Madrid in particular an oasis where they can party, as we can see here, a night with French tourists partying in Madrid. Here we can enjoy life again. It's 7 o'clock on a Friday evening in the centre of Madrid, but at first glance it could be 2 o'clock in the morning on a pre-pandemic night. Crowded terraces and pubs, queues to get into the discos, and a tide of young people looking for a place to go out and party. We are Mediterranean like you. We need our share of sun and terraces. We have the same lifestyle, and if you stop us, we get depressed. This is how Saul, a 35-year-old Frenchman, justifies the reason for his trip to Madrid. So French authorities apparently have been telling people to avoid non-essential travel, but as we saw there from that Frenchman, if you don't let people party, if you don't let people get a little bit of sun on their bodies, they get depressed. And Madrid, unfortunately, has now become the binge-drinking tourism capital of Europe. Another part of Spain, the Balearic Islands, has also recently seen an influx of German tourists, but according to this headline, it's a half-hearted German spring in Mallorca. Mallorca has become a paradise for those who have chosen to flee the harsh restrictions in Germany, which is currently facing the worst coronavirus incidence figures in recent weeks. Despite the German government's appeal to its nationals not to leave the country, hundreds have come to spend their holidays over the last week on the island, with between 3,000 and 4,000 hotel beds occupied. So there we go, with the health situation in both France and Germany getting worse in recent times. I don't know why more people from those countries don't decide to come to Spain for a holiday. Now, Catalonia here in Spain is one autonomous community where the health situation is getting worse. But in spite of the worsening health data, there was a concert last night with 5,000 people in the centre of Barcelona. As we can see here, an experiment to the rhythm of Love of Lesbian. This is the first big pandemic concert without social distancing. The concert at the Palau de Sant Jordi by the band Love of Lesbian, which delighted 5,000 fans who once again danced and sung their songs behind their face masks, has become the hope of promoters and the public that major events will once again become a reality this summer. The first mass concert of the pandemic, with the green light from Prosi Cat and a medical team supervising the operation, has been able to be held without significant incidents after subjecting all attendees to an antigen test. So binge tourism in Madrid, Germans again in Mallorca, and concerts in Barcelona. Spain is starting to get back to normal. Now, while all of these festivities are taking place around the country, the incidence rate continues to go up. Infections have increased in 15 autonomous communities. The rises are generalised throughout Spain. 15 autonomous communities, together with Ceuta, end the week with worse figures than they started with. Only 3 regions are saved, Melilla, Galicia and Valencia, which improved their data compared to last week. So COVID-19 infections here in Spain on their way up in 15 autonomous communities, and only 2 have been able to improve their data, Galicia and Valencia. Now, on the topic of Valencia and vaccination passports, the Valencian community has decided that they're going to put out their own vaccination passport for people in that autonomous community. The document can be downloaded online and is for information purposes only. The Councillor for Health, Ana Barceló, has pointed out that the health website will now allow Valencian citizens to download proof of their vaccination against the coronavirus. So good news there for people in the Valencian community. They will be able to choose which COVID-19 passport they want to carry around, the national one or the autonomous community one. And on the topic of vaccines and the vaccination campaign here in Spain, the Community of Madrid will start vaccinating the general population between 60 and 65 years of age on Tuesday. This was announced by the Regional Minister of Health of the Community of Madrid, Enrique Ruiz Escudero. We vaccinate relentlessly. That is why it is essential to receive more vaccines, because we can multiply fourfold the capacity to apply them and achieve immunity for the people of Madrid, said Escudero. So the Madrid community relentless when it comes to its vaccination program. Now let's have a look at some of the data around the country, starting with the vaccination program here in Spain. We can see that complete vaccination has been achieved on 5.29% of the population, or just over 2.5 million people, and 9.64% of the population have received at least one dose, or in other words 4.56 million people. Countrywide health data now, we can see the total amount of cases, the accumulated incidence rate for the last 14 days, now sitting at 138. There have been 265 COVID-related deaths over the last 7 days. There are currently 7,679 people hospitalized around the country with COVID, and there are 1,830 people with COVID in ICUs countrywide here in Spain. Now, one of the most important economic sectors here in Spain, the tourist sector, is back in the press today. And as we can see from this headline, the tourism sector loses another Easter period and is now relying on the miracle of vaccination. We can't lose another summer, they say. With the Easter period doomed due to the restrictions and perimeter closures imposed by the evolution of COVID-19, the tourism sector is predicting losses of 80% over the next few days and continues its particular way of the cross, awaiting resurrection. After a disastrous 2020, the sector is trying to heal its increasingly deep wound while hoping that a boost in the vaccination campaign will also provide the perfect dose to reactivate activity and thus return to display the muscle of pre-pandemic times. So the tourist sector here in Spain now waiting for the miracle of vaccination and hoping that enough people can be vaccinated in order to reactivate the sector. As we saw in the text, the wound is getting deeper and deeper, but never fear, because the Madrid community is vaccinating relentlessly. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Hilda. Stu, do you have any information about travel to Spain? I'm a US citizen living in Eastern Europe and will have my vaccine in the US in May. Any information if I can enter Spain in July? Yeah, Hilda, thanks for the comment and for the question. And there have been quite a few questions similar to this one in the comment section in recent times. People in the United States asking the question if they will be able to travel to Spain this year. And the answer is I don't know. I think it's impossible for people from the US to travel to Spain at the moment. I don't think there's any flights coming in except for people returning to Spain, residents, citizens, and the like. However, if you come from a European country within the European Union, I don't think you'd have a problem to enter Spain in July. As we know, the country is pushing to open again for those summer months. And if you have your vaccination completed and you have your vaccination certificate, I can't see why you wouldn't be able to enter from another European country. But we'll open the question up to the community, and if there's anyone who has better information, please leave it in the comment section below. One here from Don. In times like this, the pandemic, governments all around the world have to make unpopular decisions. This would probably mean they lose their job. Mr. Sanchez has removed that risk by leaving it to the lower ministerial seats to make those unpopular decisions, the so-called autonomous community presidents. Such leadership, France and Germany entering the fourth wave. Here we go again. Thanks for the update, Stuart. Yeah, Don, thanks for the comment. And you could get the impression that Mr. Sanchez has delegated the responsibility for the pandemic to the autonomous community and also to some of those less known ministers that he has in his cabinet. We see the same people on the television every day telling us about the health situation, the health minister logically, and other members of that government. But it is how things work in this country. Spain is a country which has been decentralizing over the last 40 years or so. We saw last year when Mr. Sanchez took control of the situation, didn't listen to the autonomous communities. There were lots of people that didn't agree with that decision. And of course, at the first opportunity that he had, he gave power back to the autonomous communities and said that it's their turn to deal with the pandemic. And it does seem like Mr. Sanchez is unwilling to take unpopular decisions because he doesn't want to lose his job at the next elections, like all politicians. One from John. Hi, Stuart. I understand that Fuengirola yesterday was very busy and difficult to get a parking spot because the second home house owners decided to go early and beat the police checks prior to the Easter break, allegedly. Yeah, John, thanks for the comment. A lot of people have decided to travel over this Easter period. People have decided to go to places like Malaga, Fuengirola. I know people that have gone to Almeria, people that decided to get out on Thursday before the Madrid community closed down. And let's be honest, it is impossible to stop. There just aren't enough police around the country to stop everybody from traveling, especially when the weather is good. I went outside today and I noticed that there were lots of places to park in my street, not normally the case. So obviously people have decided to go somewhere else and spend their Easter break. I personally don't agree with it. I think people should stay put, but as we all know, humans are humans and look for any opportunity to take advantage of the situation. One here from Robian Music. Hi Stuart, I live in the Malaga province of Andalusia. For the town where I live and other towns in something like a 30k radius, our office, Comisión de Extranjería, has not been able to give any appointments for the TIE card so far in 2021. You can get one if you go to Malaga, but myself and a lot of others like me will wait until our local office is organised. When they are finally ready, I will be too. Yerobian, thanks for the comment. That has been one of the main discussions in the comment section in recent times. People trying to get their appointments for their TIE card hasn't been easy. We saw the example of somebody in Alicante, I think it was Brian, who said that he had been waiting for quite a while, but I saw a reply from Brian who said that he now has an appointment for next week, so good news there. Things are a little bit slow it seems, but as you mentioned in your comment, if you're not in a hurry, you don't have any problem to wait. I also saw a few other people say that it's not 100% necessary to get your hands on that TIE card if you have that big green piece of paper, but my recommendation would always be to get that card because it makes doing things a lot easier here in Spain, considering that people ask you for your documentation on a regular basis, and it's just a lot easier to have a small piece of plastic in your wallet or purse rather than that big green piece of paper which can sometimes disintegrate. But that's just my opinion. One here from HJ Green. Stuart, appreciate your updates. I watch most days. In your last video you said that people in Spain can travel to other countries. Let's say I wanted to travel from Barcelona to Malta. I read that I can only do this for essential travel. But what if I don't want to live in Barcelona anymore and want to move to Malta for good? I know that Malta will let me in with a negative PCR, passenger locator form, travel declaration form, and more than 3 months on my UK passport. Just saying. But can I get out? Keep up the great work. Loving the new hairdo. Kind regards, confused Brit girl. Yeah, HJ, thanks for the comment. I'm not 100% sure on your particular situation, but if somebody doesn't want to live in the country anymore and wants to go and live in a country like Malta or another European country, and you are allowed to do that, I can't see why you wouldn't be able to leave Spain. Airports and borders are open for travel to other European countries. The only restrictions, as far as I know, are when it comes to local travel. You can't travel between autonomous communities here in the country, but you can go to foreign destinations. Technically, it is only for essential travel, but as we saw earlier in the video, people from France are coming to Madrid for essential travel, and people from Germany are going to Mallorca for essential travel. And finally, one here from Chris. Thanks for the update, Stu. I see from your video today that the economy is down 10%. In the UK, I believe it's worse, but house prices have risen 5% at the same time. I'm wondering if you have any information on Spanish house prices, whether they are down or up. Thank you. Yeah, Chris, thanks for the comment, and you are in luck. We spoke about this in the video that I published yesterday, the weekly review in Spain that I do with Johnny. This is one of the topics that he brought up in that conversation. We spoke about how the price of housing in Spain is generally up, especially in big cities like Madrid or Barcelona and some other parts of the country, and slightly down in some other places like, for example, Galicia. But it does seem to be the trend that house prices are on their way up in 2021 here in Spain. Not sure why that is, but obviously people have money to invest in property at the moment, and that could be one of the reasons why. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.